Hi, this is Robert Wilkins. Thanks for joining me today. Let me ask you, do you have any friends? Do you have any white friends? Do you have any black friends? And the reason I ask that because we're in today's time in such a deep racial divide, something that we hadn't seen like this since the 60s. And it's amazing that all of a sudden, people that we considered friends have gone into their corners. Why? I guess they feel safer that way in today's time. What is a friend to you? Is that someone that you'll stand up for? Is that someone that you've eaten dinner, lunch, breakfast with? Is that someone that you've spent the night with? Or they spent the night at your home? Is that someone that you'll go to bed for? Or someone that you even die with, despite what color you are? For many of us, we don't know each other. You know, when you look at the demographics in the United States, and I encourage you, get a demographic chart of the United States and see where the majority of the races live when it comes to black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and so forth. And you can see the majority of the African-American community live in the Deep South, you know, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, and so forth. And we know the reason for that goes way back to the slavery era. And but then when you look at other regions like in the Southwest, you know, from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, you know, there's a large Hispanic population, including the Cuban population in Miami, in Florida. Then, of course, you know, in the state of Oklahoma, which is considered Indian territory, and there's a lot of Native Americans here, but I think there's even more so in New Mexico and Arizona also. But, you know, I remember when I was in high school and I came to states such as like Oklahoma, and I was, you know, it was different from anything that I have ever encountered in my life. I did not know that life was different until I left the land that I grew up in. And when I decided to go to school here, college, I said, where are all the black people at? And some buddies of mine who came to play basketball also from Shreveport said the same thing. Because you don't know what life is like in other places if you never get out and see some of these places. The same thing as such I discovered while in college in various places. People had never been around a person like me. They had never seen a person like me up close in conversation. So when you look at that, African Americans make up about 13% of the country's population, and the Hispanics right now, I think 17, 18%, Asians about 5%, and the rest basically, you know, the Caucasian race, which they make up the vast majority, I think about 62%, something like that. And people will say, well, you know, we still want equality. Guys, with all the racial divide because of the matters that's going on in the country today, the protesting, the inequality in the treatment and how they're viewed by the police and so forth, that's being worked on right now. That's what all of this stuff has basically been about. Because the equality of things, I think, well, a lot of us, we can go wherever we want to go in today's time. Some places you shouldn't go or don't want to go. And then again, when there's jobs, we can apply for any and every job there is. And sometimes we don't get those jobs. But then again, what's stopping us? What's stopping you? You. You are stopping you. And why do I say that? I remember when I applied for this supervisory job that I had before I retired, which I was a supervisor, assistant district supervisor for 9 years, supervising 5 counties, and established great relationships with law enforcement there, with the court system. And you can probably rest assured many of them hadn't been around people like me either. I mean, up close contact and conversation and getting to know one another. So imagine the bridges that were built in this process, just like they're being built all over the country, guys. So don't think because you watch media and think everything's bad, because it's not. There's a whole lot of good that's been going on behind the scenes. If not, look at our country in the last 30 years. What progress have we made? Tremendous progress. Why I say that? Because I know a lot of African-American people that's got some tremendous, beautiful homes everywhere, all over the country. That's in pretty much every profession just about you can imagine, as well as very wealthy. Yeah, but they got everything, they controlling everything. But we can get there too, can we? What's stopping us from getting there? Maybe we might have to work a little harder. Maybe we might have to keep on applying. I don't care if we get turned down 100 times. Maybe that 1 in 100, 101 time that we get the opportunity. Because white folks get denied too. Then again, one can say, well, everything's more disproportionate. Yeah, that is true. But then again, nothing's going to stop you from achieving your goals and your dreams but you. They can put the brakes on you or try to look, but they can't stop you. No one can stop you but you from achieving your dreams. No one can stop you but you from fulfilling your destiny, whatever that may be. I remember when I applied for this job right before retirement, 9 years as a supervisor, I applied 4 times. It was that 5th try that I got it. And at the time, I decided I wasn't going to even apply again. So we have to continue to strive forward. And another thing is we have to be careful, guys, not to support, unlawful acts. Sometimes things that seem lawful, and we jump on that, and then again, people in the wrong sometimes. I'm not talking about any particular case or not. I just want you to be conscious of that. Because when one's behavior, you'll be amazed. Police officers has what's called officer discretion. They don't have to arrest you. They don't have to give you a citation, a ticket. One's behavior determines a lot of things, guys. So keep that in mind and not say, well, what are you stopping me for? Think about your attitude, because that police officer, and I truly believe most officers are good, but there are bad in every profession, bad teachers, abusive teachers, you name it. But officers make mistakes too, and they are human too. So keep that in mind, will you? I love this country. It's time that we stop what we're doing right now. We can't continue to pour fire on the flame, salt on the wound. It comes a point that we got to break away from the mob mentality. We have to break away from that herd, the pack mentality, that gang mentality. We got to break away from that. Once we stay in that herd mentality, bad things happen. It always happens. Look at what's going on in our country today. It's months going on and people are losing their minds. Just this weekend, several, I think about, 8 police officers, whatever, got shot around the country. People are losing their minds. Don't you think enough is enough? We got the message. The nation knows what needs to be done. And that is, right now, let's stop what we're doing. Some folks can say, no, we can't let up now. What do you expect if you don't let up? Really? What do you expect? The world has the message. We know the frontier that needs to be worked on right now is criminal justice reform. And that has already been in the works before all of this ever happened with, so-called police brutality. Progress is being made in this frontier. If not, hey, let's look back 20 years ago. Let's look back 30 years ago. And if you think even more so, what about the 14% in this country that make up interracial relationships? Children, offsprings from those relationships. Tens of millions of people Guys, we're much closer than what we think. But for some, and this is real, if you live in particular regions, like I said earlier, there are people that were white, had never been around black people. The same thing with white people, with black people. Never really been around, you've been around and you work for, but never in a personal relationship. Look at the demographics, the map, to see where the majority of people live around this country. And you can see, like a guy like me, taking them from the deep south and bringing them to the west, and then how the interaction with the people were different. And how I came in with a prejudiced attitude towards white people because of my experiences and what I've seen and what I found not to be the case everywhere. It's time, it's 2020, it's time to grow. Let's do what God requires of us. There's so many people here consider themselves, Christian, whatever you are. Whether you're Christian, you're, Jew, Hebrew, you're Muslim, whatever you are. There are some basic principle foundation of goodness in all of it. But are we living it? Sin is in this world, and sin is always going to be here, guys, in this form, in this flesh. There's never going to be perfection on this planet. You will never get perfection. So forget about it. But we can make life much better than any place on the planet, and that's in these United States. Personally, I think that when it comes to politics, things need to get cleaned up, because the racial divide that we've seen and experienced over the years spills over into our communities, spill over to our nation. Let's come together. I love you, and I know you love other people too. Let's start acting like it. Some information here from the FBI that was released in 2019, statistics on law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. It says right here, 89 law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty incidents in 2019. And 48 officers died as a result of felonious acts. And 41 officers died in accidents. And so you look at 89 law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty, and 48 officers were killed by someone involved in a felonious act, brought death to an officer. And then again, I was looking at, it shows right here, and matter of fact, that information came from the FBI. I think I said that. The FBI, Washington, D.C., FBI National Press Office. And here's something from the USA Today. And it talked about, which the Washington Post, I believe, had released in 2019, that 8 unarmed black men were killed in 2019 by police. But they're saying right here, database shows police fatalities shot 13 unarmed black men in 2019. So the number of officers killed, unarmed black men killed. And then I was watching a month ago, and there was this video that was on Facebook Live, and I believe it was in Chicago, and there was this drive-by shootings, or whatever the shootings took place. You could hear pow, 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 and you can see these people running, and you can hear these girls were screaming, and they were begging for someone to come and help them, that they were tired of this, what was going on in their city. And I was looking at something here. It says more than, and this right here comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, and it says here more than 500 homicides. Chicago's violent death total falls for third straight year. But 510 deaths in Chicago in 2019 were homicides. Wow. And that's not including Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, Washington, D.C., Seattle, and everywhere else. You can see how that adds up. So, everyone, we know what the issues are that we need to work on. But now, let's not have those that comes from other places, maybe even other countries, infiltrating our protests to make it something more than what it was meant to be or what it's not. Don't kid ourselves, guys. This is an election year. You have all sorts of entities, individuals, countries invading our democracy to try to change things. Don't kid yourself. Just because you know what people saying Black Lives Matter, this and that, trying to turn into something negative, saying they're looters, they're rioters. You have criminals all engaged in that. That has nothing to do with the actual cause. But when the media reports things or spin it a certain way because, they're liberal, they're not, it's crazy. You love this country? I do. Let's come out of our corners, friends. And let's get back to what we were doing before all of this happened, friends. Stop worrying about, buying up guns and weapons, thinking the worst is about to happen. And let's come together and show the world, show this country who we really are. Let's behave like we were behaving before all of this took place, before the pandemic, before Corona, before the shutdown, before all the closings of the businesses and people losing their jobs, before the protests, before the knee on George Floyd's neck and so forth. Because we were making progress. But progress isn't immediate. Even though we live in a microwave society, progress is not immediate. It's a process. And the process of growing, in which we have grown over the years, guys, you must admit it yourself. And we'll get to where we need to go. Because most officers out there, I do believe, want to do the right thing. But it takes two to work two. And I think we'll get there. Follow me. If you like what I'm talking about, press the like button. Hit the notification bell so you'll be the first to be notified of any and every post from this channel. Have a great day. Let's move forward. Let's do what God requires us to do. And let's calm this storm. And let's move forward because we know now what we have to do. Thank you.